A 16-year-old squeegee kid, Tavon Scott, will spend the next 15 years in prison. He was convicted and sentenced in the shooting death of Timothy Reynolds last summer.
Reynolds' family leaving the courthouse in tears while attorneys on both sides address the ruling.
We love you and we'll never forget you and we'll always celebrate you and you'll always be in our hearts. Love you, Tim.
No sentence is going to ever match their grief. No sentence is ever going to bring their beloved Timothy Reynolds back.
We all make mistakes, but our past mistakes shouldn't define us. They should refine us, and I expect that this young man will be refined when he returns to the community.
Tavon Scott's case reignites a conversation about squeegeeing and juvenile crime in Baltimore. Mackenzie Frost and Rebecca Pryor will have those stories in a moment.
Our team coverage begins with Jeff Abel with an eye on the future as mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon discusses juvenile crime in Sandtown tonight. Jeff.
Like many communities, Sandtown has spent years trying to get the upper hand on juvenile crime. And tonight, many community leaders came here in search of solutions.
I know we have a lot of partners here tonight.
In the community of Sandtown, which has long been plagued with problems, the priorities seem crystal clear.
So I've been hearing a lot of gunshots almost every night.
Children under the age of 18 being murdered in Sandtown is a high peak right now.
One young lady, 13 years old, was killed right in front of the recreation center a couple of years ago.
In fact, not long after that teen lost her life, the city moved in and shut down the Lillian Jones Recreation Center, a move which community leaders say has had a devastating impact on the community.
There's been a decline with the youth having access to stuff, as far as even after school programs, education-wise. A lot of the children, they're out, just out in the streets. Where else are they going to go? 8 o'clock at night, you see them running up and down. They're just in the streets. They need something to do.
But if these resources are in one centralized location.
With the recreation center closed, the community has lost the one location where kids could access opportunities. Tonight,
Reach out to somebody and see what they got.
community leaders came together to strategize ways to keep kids involved and keep them off the streets.
We have more teens now being killed more than ever, but they feel as though there's no outlet.
There's a lot of challenges in this area, and there have been spot development done in the area, and communities have come and gone as far as being involved. But the collaboration of all these groups is just going to make them stronger.
Amen.
After 2 years, the city is now vowing to reopen the rec center next year. But as juvenile crime soars, community leaders insist there's no time to wait.
Children have nowhere to go. They have nothing to do. They have no safe place to attend.
Here in Sandtown, many of the long-timers insist the problems are coming not from those who live here, but from those outside of the community. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Join us October 24th, that is today, or soon to be today, for a town hall about public safety and criminal justice. It starts at 7 inside the Bilingual Christian Church of Baltimore. Mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon will join a panel of public safety experts to answer questions about crime in Baltimore. Fox 45 News has reached out to Mayor Scott, inviting him to participate several times, but he hasn't responded. If you can't attend in person, you can watch it on foxbaltimore.com.
We mentioned 16-year-old Tavon Scott sentencing in the shooting death of Timothy Reynolds. Scott receives 15 years in prison. The prosecution fought for 35 years. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost was in court and shares perspectives from the Reynolds and Scott families.
It was an emotional day inside the courtroom, really, for both sides of the situation. Ultimately, the judge sentencing Tavon Scott to 15 years in prison with an additional 5 years of probation. But not everyone is satisfied.
The Baltimore City squeegee kid at the center of the city's controversy, facing his future in court Monday. The hours-long hearing filled with emotional statements from both sides. The court hearing from several members of the Reynolds family, including one of Tim's daughters. Holding back tears, his widow Shannon telling the court, it doesn't get easier with time, it gets worse because he's never coming home. Tavon Scott's family, including his grandmother, telling the court no one won in this situation and pleading with the judge to believe that her grandson is teachable. Tavon Scott himself telling the judge, since incarcerated, it's taught me the importance of every decision and how those choices impact others. Ultimately, the judge breaking with the prosecutor's request of 35 years, sentencing the 16-year-old to 15 years in prison.
Hopefully the message is loud and clear. Young people, if you're going to grab an illegal handgun and use that illegal handgun, you can and you will go to prison.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates making it clear he does not believe the Department of Juvenile Services could have helped in this case.
The juvenile system in our state is not set up in any way, shape, form, or fashion to deal with young people who are violent.
The defense?
I may have said we're happy, but I think we're relieved.
Viewing the sentence as better than what could have been.
The state was asking for 35 years. He ended up with 15 years. And the judge inviting us to come back to her on a motion to modify. And so, things turned out quite well for him.
The court hearing about a youthful offender program Tavon Scott is expected to participate in once he's transferred to adult prison. A program with several services available that will take between 6 and 8 years to complete.
He's going in as a boy, but he will come out as a man. But he will be a changed man.
But for the Reynolds family, 15 years is not enough.
If you want to make it clear to those out there that are still thinking about committing violence, you want to send a clear message that this will not be tolerated in our city. Respectfully, I think a maximum sentence would have sent that message. I'm not convinced this does.
Recognizing nothing will bring Timothy Reynolds back to them.
We love you, and we'll never forget you, and we'll always celebrate you, and you'll always be in our hearts.
The defense says they do plan to file an appeal stemming from that juvenile transfer hearing that took place in November of last year. It's unclear when that appeal will be filed. In the meantime, Tavon Scott will stay in a juvenile detention facility until he turns 18. We're outside the courthouse downtown. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And Timothy Reynolds' death sparked the mayor's squeegee collaborative plan, which took effect in January. But Fox 45 News, has been sounding the alarm about squeegee issues for months before the collaborative was created. Back in January of 2020, a 52-year-old man was allegedly assaulted outside his car. The video showing the man being hit repeatedly by a squeegee kid. The following month, 2 Baltimore City police officers were attacked by 2 men after receiving complaints of squeegee kids. Then in August, another attack caught on camera showing squeegee kids throwing rocks at cars. In October of 2021, a woman was left bruised and bloodied at the intersection of President and Lombard, she says at the hands of a squeegee kid.
Next thing I know, he is in my car beating me in the face with a stick.
There were also multiple reports of kids scamming drivers out of money using a Cash App last year, police even going as far as to warn drivers of that threat.
Some argue the squeegee collaborative was put in place after public pressure for the mayor and city council to address the issue. Now there are questions about why the same thing isn't happening with juvenile crime, despite calls for change. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor explains.
Yeah, as senseless violence tightens its grip on our young people, activists that I spoke with today argue it shouldn't take another tragedy for lawmakers to take action. Busy Baltimore City intersections where swarms of squeegee kids once stood, now mostly free from window washers who for years mounted concerns and criticism.
He comes and throws the whole bottle of soap suds on my car, the front window shield.
Following one violent encounter after another.
Rocks at my car because I didn't want to give him no money.
As warnings went ignored, the worst eventually occurring. At the corner of Light and Conway, a confrontation turning deadly, costing Timothy Reynolds his life and a teenager years behind bars. That tragedy ultimately the turning point for change.
They can't be there.
But now Baltimore's youth facing another crisis as shootings and car thefts take off among young offenders. Law enforcement leaders claiming new juvenile justice reform laws prevent them from holding minors accountable and their communities safe, sparking a resurgence of warnings from parents.
We got locked up in Towson, Catonsville, White Marsh. I be scared my daughter gonna get shot.
Police.
We are collectively begging for our elected officials to do something about this crime crisis.
And prosecutors.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day.
In Annapolis, hearings are being held.
There is no consequence
as the law now exists, if you blow off probation.
But so far, no real change has been made, causing activists like Timothy Scott,
Something should have been done a long time ago.
a former chair of Maryland's Juvenile Justice Coalition, to question what will it take for lawmakers to take action.
No one wants to have that conversation until there's a tragedy. There have been so many opportunities to provide services to kids that we missed.
Now, lawmakers will be holding another hearing to discuss juvenile crime in about 2 weeks. However, they have been adamant that they don't plan on introducing any new legislation until next year. In Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Now, there are some changes in Washington, D.C.'s crime fight. Mayor Muriel Bowser's office unveiled a new bill that would increase penalties for organized retail theft in open-air drug markets. It brings back a policy that makes it illegal to wear masks for the purpose of committing a crime. Bowser says the city has to send a message that violence won't be tolerated. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins will have a closer look at the bill in 30 minutes.
If you want to contact your state lawmakers about public safety, House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. Their phone numbers, email addresses right there on your screen. And that brings us to our question of the day. Do lawmakers need to pass tough on crime legislation? So far, 95% of people who voted say yes. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you for watching. Here's another video for you to watch. Also take some time to subscribe to our YouTube channel.